Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. And my name is Dan, and artificial intelligence has hit a lot of headlines recently. So I thought we would see if we could use AI today to build the perfect free hit team for game week 32. It's something a lot of us are playing around with anyway, but can the robots do it better than us? Let's find out in today's video. And if you do enjoy this video and you want to see more content like this, please do hit the like button to let me know you're enjoying it, and subscribe as well if you are new around here. Okay guys, so I built this team using the artificial intelligence My Team tool from Fantasy Football Hub. I have left a link down in the description so you can go check it out for yourself. It is a tool I use fairly regularly to help build my own teams, but we're going to see what the highest possible predicted points we can get from a team is using this AI tool. So first of all guys, let's have a look at the team rating. It's 100%, so apparently this is the best possible team you can get within a reasonable budget of 100.8 million. The predicted points are 67.5, which I think is very, very decent given it's a blank game week. Of course, with a bit of luck, that can spur on a little bit higher as well. Let's go position by position and see what the AI has come up with. So, first of all, in goal, we have got Johnston of Crystal Palace playing at home against Everton. 4.2 predicted points here, and you can kind of see why Crystal Palace under Hodgson have been pretty good defensively, not conceding, too many goals really at all. And really, Johnston has been making a lot of saves as well. So, I think this is going to be a really good opportunity. Everton are a team that does take shots on, but they're a team that don't have too many good finishers. So it's going to be even more opportunity for save points, even if you don't get that clean sheet. But I still think a clean sheet is very much on the cards for Crystal Palace. So definitely a defense we want to be invested in, and a cheap goalkeeper that doesn't really interrupt some of your other players. I think Johnston has a slightly higher point ceiling than maybe some of the defenders in many ways, because he is going to be making saves where the Crystal Palace defenders don't really get too many attacking returns. So they're rated slightly lower than Johnston. So in a way, the best Crystal Palace defender you could actually get this week is actually a goalkeeper instead. So let's move on into defense. We have got Trent Alexander-Arnold against Nottingham Forest at home. I think you don't need to be a robot to work out this is a very, very good pick for your free hit team. 6.9 predicted points. That is really, really high. In fact, that's the second most predicted points of any player this game week according to the artificial intelligence. So we're expecting Trent to be moving into a slightly more midfield type position, playing against one of the weakest, if not the weakest attack in the entire league at home. It's a really good opportunity for a clean sheet no matter who you are, and Trent is going to hopefully contribute with some attacking returns as well, particularly those assists. Next up, we have got Van Dijk with 5.8 predicted points. Again, same fixture, same good opportunity for a clean sheet here, and I feel like that these two Liverpool defenders have been inserted into this team partially because they've got really, really high predicted minutes. So both of these players predicted to not only start but play the majority of the game, which is going to give them more opportunity to get those attacking returns. Van Dijk has been doing really well in terms of XG recently compared to a lot of other defenders, so you never know, you could get one of those thunder headers as well, which is really going to boost your points. It's going to happen occasionally. It does with Van Dijk. You could get lucky and score much more than the 5.8 predicted points as shown on screen. Next up, Kieran Trippier, a player who has scored consistently well throughout this season. Maybe kind of a little bit worse recently, but in general, it's still a pretty good fixture for him, and he's still going to be creative in that fixture. And in general, Newcastle's defensive numbers are still pretty good. A little bit of a blip there against Aston Villa, but that's not something we see too often really. Spurs have been in pretty poor form, and the AI actually kind of is suggesting that this Spurs at home game is an easy fixture. It really likes this fixture, and it thinks that actually, we can get something over Spurs at the moment. And I feel like that is definitely very possible. If you've watched Spurs recently, you'll kind of understand why. Moving on into midfield, guys, we have got Mo Salah, so absolutely no surprise here. Again, one of the really, really obvious picks that anyone is going to pick. The AI is no different. You've got to pick Mo Salah. Highest predicted points of any player for this game week with a predicted points of 9. So we're going to hopefully see around that, hopefully even more. Really, really good option for you. Nottingham Forest at home. Salah has been in pretty good form recently, and he's a nailed-on attacker for Liverpool as well, which is really, really good. So the primary attacking threat, who also is going to be playing the most minutes, makes a lot of sense that if you're going to go for a Liverpool attacker against the likes of Nottingham Forest, who have been looking pretty weak recently. We saw how they performed against Manchester United. It's not looking good for them at the moment. Salah is hopefully going to be the guy to absolutely decimate them. Next up, Saka. So this is a bit of a slightly more interesting one. I know some people are thinking about going for Saka in their free hit teams. Other people are thinking about leaving him out entirely. What I will say about the AI is that it doesn't have as much recency bias as us. So as humans, we'll probably watch the last couple of games from Saka and say, a little bit disappointed from him recently, not doing as well as he perhaps has done previously in the season, in, maybe a month ago or something like that. But because the AI kind of tries to take data from a little bit longer period of time, tries to look at a bigger picture of things, maybe it's actually going to, maybe this is a way of teaching us something. Maybe it can teach us a little bit about how we play FPL and how we shouldn't look at just recent scores to pick our FPL teams, and maybe look at a wider set of data. And the AI seems to think that Saka is going to come good in this game and do really well against a Southampton team that do look, again, really bad at the moment. So we are really having a focus here on Liverpool versus Nottingham Forest, Arsenal against Southampton. There's going to be triple ups from each of those teams, and you can definitely see why. And then we're kind of sprinkling players around them. But yeah, Saka at home against Southampton, 6.2 predicted points. I think that's a pretty good prediction there. I would expect that Saka does get one attacking return in this game, potentially, as long as he isn't just quite as quiet as he has been in previous games. Next up, Martinelli, who is actually rated slightly lower than Saka at 5.8 predicted points. And on recent form, you would definitely say that Martinelli would be the better pick, right? He has been consistently better since kind of probably the dawn of the new year, I suppose, a better FPL pick. And at the start of the season, we saw Martinelli doing really well as well. So it's really a bit of a mystery to me why he is slightly lower predicted points. Maybe it's because it's kind of looking at Saka's numbers over a slightly longer period of time. Maybe it's thinking Saka is slightly more nailed on. I mean, it definitely is. Well, Saka definitely has more predicted minutes according to artificial intelligence, so maybe that does play into it a little bit, why Martinelli is predicted to score slightly lower than Saka. But I would say the Martinelli, for me, is a nailed on pick. It's good to see that the artificial intelligence at least agrees that he should be in our teams, and he is there as the third highest predicted points among these midfielders that you see on screen. So far, we have got one more midfield slot to finish off their team off with, and that is Maddison with 5.3 predicted points. Now, I think this is probably the biggest surprise of the team so far. We have got a game against Wolves at home. Wolves haven't been amazing. Let's not lie about that. But Leicester haven't been great either. But Maddison has been a player consistently over years now where he has been capable of scoring some really, really nice FPL hauls. So you can imagine that maybe Maddison comes out of nowhere and gets a big score. He's definitely something that he's done before. He has been a reliable FPL asset in the past. I don't know if I'd call him that right now, but hey, like I say, the recency bias is a human thing, not really an AI thing. So Maddison maybe could be a decent pick as well. Jesus up front here, Southampton at home. He's your third Arsenal player. And I think we've got a kind of a leaning towards Arsenal's attack, partially because Arsenal's defensive numbers have been pretty poor recently. And the AI has obviously calculated that and actually maybe predicted that the forward players are more likely to get good FPL scores than the defensive players, which I kind of understand that one, to be fair. But Jesus has been doing very, very well recently. He's actually got the highest predicted points of any forward for this game week with 5.6. I think that's a pretty modest kind of prediction there, but that's kind of predicting him to get maybe one goal in this game. Not 100% sure about that one, but still a good chance of a goal from Jesus. He has been operating at over a attacking contribution per game since his return, so he really is doing very well at the moment, and Arsenal's attack in general are absolutely killing it. It's just a bit of a shame about their defence recently has kind of let them down a little bit. Next up, Tony. So Tony is a player that you don't see in too many free hit teams at the moment. You really don't. And yet he's the second highest predicted score for a forward for this game week with 5.2. Now, Aston Villa at home has been listed by the AI as a medium difficulty fixture, so it's not quite as easy as some of the others. But what we do have with Tony is a player who scores a lot of FPL points across the season. And Aston Villa's defensive numbers are technically not amazing. They've just been kind of somehow been managing to just grab onto clean sheet points out of nowhere. But yeah, Tony is a player who is firmly in this team with a fairly respectable 5.2 predicted points. He has been a very good FPL scorer throughout the whole season. So yes, you probably wouldn't want him long term because maybe you're worried about him getting a yellow card in this game and be suspended for the next two. But you know, if you're on a free hit, that's not really going to matter too much. And the AI kind of agrees with that. It's just saying, Tony, he's a good player. He scores FPL points. Aston Villa isn't the ideal fixture, but, you know, you can't pick Erling Haaland this game week. Kane plays against Newcastle this week, which is definitely a harder fixture, you would say, than Aston Villa on paper anyway. So overall, Tony gets the nod here. And with the finishing off the strike force with Alexander Isak. So yeah, another player who you don't see in too many free hit teams. You see him in some. You probably see Isak in more teams than Tony or Maddison, but still Isak is not a super popular pick. He's not one of those nailed on picks that everyone is picking, for example. But against Spurs, 5.1 predicted points. Again, the AI thinks that Newcastle have a really good chance against Spurs, and we've seen Newcastle score sort of 4 goals per game in recent weeks as well. And Spurs, because they have been looking so bad, maybe this is going to be an opportunity for a high risk, high reward kind of pick like Isak, who does seem to be nailed on at the moment. Played 5 out of the last 6 games. The game he did miss was a midweek fixture, so this is a weekend fixture. Obviously, Isak hasn't played since, last weekend, so there is going to be a little bit of rest time for him there. So overall, I kind of like this pick a lot, and he's definitely a player who I am considering for my own team. If you think Spurs are really bad, and you think Spurs are really bottling it, and you like the look of Newcastle's attack at the moment, Isak is definitely a high upside pick for you guys to go for. Onto the bench, guys. We've got Iverson with 4 predicted points. Not bad for a 3.8 million goalkeeper. We've got Soucek, which is a bit of an interesting one, bit of a strange one, bit of a random one. 4.3 predicted points from him. I'm not really sure where the AI has conjured that one up. Maybe from previous seasons, potentially. I mean, Soucek hasn't performed terribly in terms of FPL points this season, but I mean, he's not really a player you would consider playing, really, and maybe that's kind of the point here. Because Soucek is so cheap, it's kind of tried to cut the budget a little bit on defense, on the bench, sorry. And therefore, we've come up with a player who is, predicted points 4.3. That's like, what, a 1 in 5 chance of scoring a goal plus a 1 in 3 chance of getting an assist or something like that. If you work it out, I'm sure someone will be able to work out exactly what it is predicting the chances of Soucek getting something in this game, but not too much really. So probably just on there as a cheap option that does fit within the budget. And then obviously we've got Castagna and Mitchell there as well, each predicted 4.1 points. So we've got a Leicester defender and we've got a Crystal Palace defender there as well to make up the bench. Very cheap players again. The bench is very cheap on this one. I think that's kind of what you have to do in general in FPL, particularly on a free hit. You are going to have a fairly cheap bench as long as it fits within your budget. Then, you spend as much or as little money as you can on the bench, really. And that kind of concludes the team. But I do want to run through some other players who the AI is also predicting to do very well this game week. Just in case you guys have a look at this team and you don't really like the look of this team and maybe you want to replace 1 or 2 players, I wanted to show you some of the alternatives that the AI has conjured up for game week 32. But first of all, guys, I do want you to let me know, what do you think of this team? Let me know in the comment section how close to this team is your team. Of the first 11 in particular, how many out of 11 have you got of this team? And in particular, which players are missing from your team, from this team, that you think, is it like Maddison or Tony, for example, that you're actually like, I would not pick that player. I think the AI has gone a little bit crazy on this one. Let me know what you think about that one. But yeah, I do want to finish off this video looking at some other players. Alright, so the Game Week 32 AI top predicted points, aside from the players we've already shown, are on screen right now. We've got goalkeepers Ramsdale, Alisson and Pope. Obviously, Ramsdale and Alisson predicted to score slightly higher than Johnston, actually. But they do mean that you are going to be taking up one of your valuable Arsenal and Liverpool slots. So, really, they're not really too valuable if you can just pick a Trent or a Van Dijk or a Salah instead of an Alisson. You're probably going to do that instead. We have got Pope on 4 predicted points, though. So, he is, I guess, an alternative to Johnston. I know a few people have been asking about Leno this week as well. He's on 3.8 predicted points. Didn't fit on the screen though, so hopefully that's okay. In terms of defenders, we have got Robertson with 5.8, which is actually the same amount of predicted points as Van Dijk. I would personally lean Van Dijk personally because Robertson has been dropping back into a slightly more defensive position recently. Konate on 4.9 million, but 4.9 predicted points, sorry. He's actually 4.8 million, I believe. Or is he 4.9 now? Who knows? But yeah, Konate is definitely a player who you might consider if you really were struggling for budget. But on a free hit, I would really prioritise putting your money into Arsenal and Liverpool. Just spend as much money as you can on those 2 teams and then go budget around them. Gabriel and White, if you're looking for a Arsenal defender, have the 2 highest predicted points. Zinchenko scoring slightly lower because he is currently flagged with a potential injury. Into midfield, we've got Cody Gakpo, 5.7 predicted points, which is pretty decent, to be fair. It's kind of higher than some of the other players that we have seen, but again, Gakpo is easier to replace with some of the other midfielders, whereas, you know, it's very hard to replace the likes of, you know, Van Dijk and Robertson maybe, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who really have much higher predicted points than a lot of the other players. So, yes, you can go a slightly different route and take out a Liverpool defender, maybe go for Gakpo instead. Pretty decent predicted points, to be fair. Odegaard, 5.6 predicted points as well. Pretty decent, but again, the Arsenal and Liverpool slots are really so valuable right now. You kind of have to be careful which kind of players that you pick. But there are a few other interesting options here, you know, as potential replacements for some of your midfielders. So, Bowen, 4.8 predicted points. Benrahma, 4.6. Willian at 4.5 predicted points. I know a few people have been throwing Willian's name out there a little bit. And Almiron at 4.2 predicted points as well. So, these are kind of the next best load of midfielders. After that, we are really dropping to kind of 4.14 predicted points players. It does start to get a lot lower after that. And finally, forwards, where there are genuinely some other options that are very comparable to what we already saw. You know, we saw Isak, 5.1 predicted points. Tony, 5.2 predicted points. Well, Kane and Watkins are both on 5 predicted points. So it is pretty close, to be fair. So if you don't like some of these forwards that have been suggested by the AI, these alternatives are super close in terms of their predictions anyway. So maybe the human element can make that decision when it is as close as it is like this. But yeah, Kane, reliable FPL asset. Watkins, red hot form. Diogo Jota there, 4.9 predicted points. Real differential there. Maybe a bit too risky when there's so many safe Liverpool options to go for, but definitely worth a shout as a differential for sure, especially after his performance in last game. And Dominic Solanke is at 4.7 predicted points here as well, which I know a lot of people are going for Solanke this week, to be fair. Slightly lower predicted than some of the other players. Not to say he's a bad option. You can still see that he's better than a lot of the other options in general this week, but yeah, just slightly below some of our other forwards there. So those are your other predicted points for some other players, and hopefully that gives you a good overview of what artificial intelligence this week thinks is going to be a fantastic free hit team. I'm definitely taking some inspiration from it. I don't know if you guys are as well, and let me know as well, guys, if you are just going to straight up trust the AI and go with the AI's team. Can the robots do it better than the humans? I don't know. Of course, guys, like I say, if you want to check out this website that shows you all of these numbers, all of these predicted points, I will have a link in the description for you guys to go check that out for yourself. And yeah, let me know what you think of it. Bit of a different video today, a bit of a bonus video today as well. So it's going to be a double upload today. So just trying to pump out the content for all of you free hitters and non-free hitters, which means twice the amount of videos, I guess. But yeah, hopefully you did enjoy it. Do let me know with a like, and obviously subscribe as well if you're new around here. Next up, 100 experts. That's coming out this afternoon. Looking forward to getting that one out. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.